Erev Terabatai. Just a couple of days ago, my friend called me up, and he's got a strong question. It's a real case, right, that happens over here in the community. What's the story? The story is, there's a lady. Twice she became a widow. Almana. Her husband died twice. 2 different husbands, right? So now comes a third guy, right? Wants to marry her. But, he goes to the rabbis, and the rabbis tell him, we don't want to marry you, I'm sorry. No. They refuse to marry him, to this girl. So we have to think about that, right? We got to talk about it. So, what's the reason why they refused? So there is a Gemara, Masechet Yevamot, Samech Daled Amud Bet. It says over there that if there's a woman, right? Her husband died 2 times, 2 different husbands. She shouldn't marry a third one. Should not. It's machlokat over there between Rabbi Nasi and Rabbi Shimon Gamliel. One was the son of the other, father and son. Right? Machloket. So Rabbi Shimon Gamliel says, if it happened 3 times, 3 husbands died, then 4th time she shouldn't marry. Rabbi Nasi says, if it happened 2 times, 3rd time she shouldn't marry already. Machloket. 2 different opinions, right? So, what's halacha? So Gemara Paskins over there like Rabbi Nasi. Even though he's the son, right? He's the son. Halacha is like the son. Okay, whatever. But anyway, right? Shulchan Aruch says like this. Says Shulchan Aruch, Ibn Ezer, if a woman was married 2 times, both husbands died, we tell her, don't marry a 3rd one, right? We tell the guy, don't marry this lady. Don't do it. What's the reason why? If 2 times, her husband died like this, you know what this shows? We call this Isha Katlanit. You know what this means? That means her husbands, they die. You understand? Why they die? What's the reason for this? So says the Gemara over there, there's 2 different reasons brought down there. But the main reason, right, that we paskin like, it says that because she has a bad mazal. This is why her husbands died. She was born with a bad mazal. So every time she marries a husband dies because of her mazal. Her mazal is no good. Can you imagine? Yeah, she doesn't die. So why? It's a good question. Why doesn't she die? Why does the husband die? That's the question, right? Yeah, it's strong. Strong question. Right, exactly. So you know what it is? I'll explain to you. There's an answer for that. The reason why he dies and not her is because her mazal is bad. So what does that mean? Her mazal says, that you're not going to have parnasah from your husband. So if comes a husband, right, and gives her parnasah, they kill him because of this, because they don't want her to have parnasah. Her mazal is no good. You understand? This is the whole thing. And that's why her husbands died. So therefore, the 3rd time we tell him, the guy, can you find somebody else? Do me a favor, Go to the Shadchan, Go to the Bukharian Jewish Center, right, in the 71st. They have a service over there, Go find that girl over there. Why are you want to marry this girl? Can you find somebody else? So the truth is, that there's in that Gemara, it's brought down something interesting, right? That even though we tell him, right, don't marry this girl. But, let's say he wants to marry her anyway. He's brave. You know what that means? He says he thinks that nothing will happen to him. No, not me. Nothing is going to happen to me. I'm strong. I'm chazak. Nothing is going to happen to me. So he believes that he'll be safe. So you know what we tell him? We tell him, oh yeah, okay, you believe that? That you're going to be safe? You know what? Go to the room over there. You want to do chuppah with her? Go over there and do the chuppah. We don't want to help you. You want to go in the other room and do it? It's up to you. You're taking the risk. It's on you. It's on your head. The risk. So now you want to be a tough guy? You want to be a wise guy? Okay, go ahead. Try your luck, Russian roulette, right? You roll the dice. You may lose your life. I don't know what's going to be. We don't know what's going to be. You understand? This is what we tell him. Now here, listen to this, So when I got this question from this guy, I asked him, I said, tell me, this guy who wants to marry this girl, is he rich? He's got good parnasah? Why did I ask him this? You know why? Because if he's rich, he's millionaire, that means his mazal is very strong. You understand? So maybe his mazal is strong enough that this girl's not going to kill her. Not going to kill him. That's why I said, so that's what it is. Some people have a very strong mazal. And you can see why, because they're millionaire, he's like living life like, a melech, like a king. Like Trump, Oh. So if you live like Trump, your mazal is also like Trump, You got a good mazal, you got a strong mazal there. So you want to do it? Go to the room over there, right? And go outside, step outside. Do what you want to do. That's what we tell him. It's up to you. We told you, we warned you. Don't blame us. You know what I mean? We told you. What's going to be? Okay, fine. So says Shulchan Aruch, in a case like this, right? The Chatchila, we tell him, as we said, right? Don't marry this girl. We tell him. What about if he went, right, and married her, by himself? He didn't listen to the rabbis. He went, like we said, right, somewhere else. He found some other rabbi, or whatever. He married the girl. So what do? We tell them not to get divorced. So the answer is no. Once they got married, we tell them you can stay with her. If this was your mazal to stay with this woman, to marry this woman, okay, let's see what happens, right? We'll see. We'll see how it goes. That's what we tell him. So if he got married, we tell him, okay, we're not going to force you to get divorced. Try your luck and see what happens. This was your decision. You made the decision. We warned you. There's also another scenario, right? Which is, what about if he didn't marry her yet, but he did kiddushin? He gave her the ring. Right? I have to tell you, right, that in marriage, in Jewish marriage, there's 2 stages, of the marriage. 2 stages. Stage number 1 is the kiddushin, the ring. You give her the ring, right? Number 1. Rabbi, you do weddings? You do chuppah? You do? Yeah. He knows. He knows what I'm saying, right? So stage 1 is the ring. Stage number 2, chuppah. That's number 2. You have to do both stages in order to be married. If you do the first stage, you're already married, but not fully. You cannot live with her yet until you do the chuppah, sheva brachot, chuppah. You got to finish it off. You got to finish. So that's the way it's done. So if she did, let's say, right, just the first part, they did. You gave her the ring. So now he did kiddushin, right? So what do we tell him now, right? Divorce her or do chuppah? So says Shulchan Aruch, we tell them, if you want the chuppah, you can do now. You already gave her the ring. You started already, right? The process. You got it. You can do it. If you want the chuppah, be my guest. It's up to you. You want to do it? Go ahead. We're not going to stop you. That's what we tell them. Because you already did kiddushin. Because once you do kiddushin, you cannot live with the woman yet until you do chuppah. But at the same time, right? If you want to get rid of her now, you got to give her a get. She needs a get, to free her. So on the one hand, right, you cannot live with her like this. On the other hand, she needs a get to get free from you. So she's like in the middle, they're in the middle. So therefore we tell him, okay, you want to finish it off, do the chuppah, be my guest. So this is the way it is, that's the way it works with the Isha, the Katlanit, that she has a bad mazal, So we tell them like this. This is what we tell them, because it's not a coincidence, that 2 husbands died, by her. It's not. You can't just say, oh, yeah, it happened. No, not happened. There's a reason for that. There's a reason for everything. That you shouldn't think it's just like that. I'll tell you another thing, which is brought down in the Kabbalah. This story there in the Zohar Kadosh, which is similar to this. It says in the Zohar Kadosh, that a person should not marry almana, widow. Not a good idea. Not asur. It's not asur. But not a good idea. Not advisable to marry almana. You know why this is? Listen to this now. Right? This is Kadosh. What happens is, when you marry almana, it's almana, right? Widow, right? Her husband died. Even one time. I'm not talking about two. Just one time. The problem is like this, that if this guy died, like the first husband, the neshama, the nefesh, of this guy, right, stays inside her wife, inside his wife. It's still there, even though he died. There's something in there, from the neshama of this person. So what do I care about that? Who cares, right? Who cares? Because when the new husband comes, right, to marry her, what happens is, right, the nefesh of this guy is still there, right? So he gets jealous, you taking my wife? So what happens, right? He starts to fight against him, Starts to be a fight between this guy and this guy. The old guy and the new guy. They fight. So what happens is, this old guy who's inside her, you know what he wants to do? He wants to kill this guy. He's trying to kill him. That's why they tell you, don't marry a woman like this. You know why? Because he may, if his mazal is strong, this guy inside there, he may kill him. If he has a strong mazal. He may have the power to do it, But some people, they themselves have a strong mazal, right? The new guy. So if he has a strong mazal, and this guy is not so strong, you know what's going to be? This guy is going to stay alive. Because this guy is not strong enough to kill him. But he tries. He tries to kill him. This is the thing. So therefore, right, if a person wants to marry a widow, right, he could. There's no prohibition. It's not asur. You could marry a widow. But watch out, you may be in danger. This guy may kill you. He's inside there. Watch out. Now here's the thing, right? Why did this happen? Because he didn't divorce her, he died. But when you divorce your wife, that's something else. It's not the same thing when a person dies or divorces. Because when you give her a get, you know what happens, right? Your neshama leaves this woman, it goes out. It doesn't stay there. The get takes out the neshama. Removes it. But when he dies, the neshama is still there, The nefesh is still there. It's not the same thing, So therefore, when a woman is divorced, there's no danger, there's no sakana. Why? Because there's nothing there anymore. When he gave her the get, finished, finito. But when he died, something is still there, and he's fighting against this guy. So let me tell you an interesting thing, right? We'll stop here, I don't want to keep you too long. You know what happened, right? David, as we said, right? We mentioned already here a couple of times. David HaMelech, how many wives did he have? 18 wives, right? Everybody knows that, right? Why? Because the Melech is not allowed to have more than 18. It's a maximum, right? For the Melech. So, one of the wives that David married, right, was a widow. Which one was this one? Which one? You know what her name was? Abigail. Right? Abigail was a widow. So, who was her husband, the first husband? Naval HaKarmeli. Naval HaKarmeli. This guy was a Rasha, Big troublemaker. Rasha. So what happened was that Naval HaKarmeli, by the way, they say, he was Gilgul. Of who? Naval HaKarmeli. He was Gilgul of Bilam HaRasha. Can you imagine? Because when Bilam died, he told HaKadosh Baruch Hu, right? It says in the Pasuk, he said, I want to die like the righteous, I want to, like the tzaddikim, like the Jewish, That's why HaKadosh Baruch Hu said, okay, you want to die like a Jew? I'll bring you back as a Jew next time. Next time you come back as a Jew. Right? Naval HaKarmeli. Naval HaKarmeli was relative of David HaMelech. They were related. Distant relatives. Understand? So what happened was, right, that Naval HaKarmeli died. David cursed him, because he did something wrong there. I don't want to get into it now. There's no time. He cursed him. He died. So when Naval HaKarmeli died, What did he do? He took Avigail and married her. This is what happened, right? By the way, she was a big tzaddiket, this lady, Nevi'ah, she was a prophet. Big woman. Gadol. So, here's the thing. That he married her. So then, right, he didn't see the Zohar? It says over there, don't marry a widow. You know what I mean? So why did he do this? If the Zohar says not to do it. So the answer must be, what I tell you, the answer must be is that he was confident, that his mazal was strong, stronger than this guy, right? This guy is Rasha. David Tzaddik, and he also says Zchut Avot, right? Who was his father? Ishai, Tzaddik, right? And all the Tzaddikim that were before him, right? Peretz, and all these Tzaddikim that were after Peretz, Yehuda, Peretz, right? He has a big zechut, David, you know what I mean? Big mazal, big zechut. So he knows, right, this guy's not going to be able to kill him. That's why he took her probably, you know what I mean? Because he was confident that he could deal with it. Baruch Adonai Le'olam, Amen, Amen. רבי חנן, שאומר, זה קדוש ברוך הוא לא זכר ישראל, לפיכך חיבה העולם תורה ומצוא שאומרים חפש למען צדקו יגדיל תורה באדיר.